Welcome to Chatting with the Experts, a podcast for immigrant women from Africa and the Caribbean who have relocated to North America, Europe, and even Australia. In this podcast, we talk about our struggles, but we also highlight our triumphs that we have experienced while living abroad. And we hope that by sharing our stories, we can help our fellow immigrant sisters who are listening to this. My guest today is a fellow Caribbean sister, woohoo! Marie Mackenzie, who is originally from Jamaica, but she now lives and works in Orlando, in Florida. Who doesn't know where Orlando is?
Right?
Everybody has to know that, right?
Disney's here.
That's where Disney is. I'll tell you a little bit about Marie and then I'll let her expand on this. So, Marie is a number one Amazon best-selling author. And she's also an accomplished registered nurse. She's an educator. She's a community volunteer. She's a victims advocate. And she's a sexual assault nurse examiner. She migrated to the United States in 1989 when she was a baby, she said. I'm kidding, when she was 28. And as I said, she lives in Orlando, Florida with her husband. So I'll let her take it over from here. But before I let her speak, I'm going to welcome her. And so, welcome to Chatting with the Experts. Marie, thank you for saying yes.
Good morning, Paula. Good morning, listeners. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Marie Mackenzie, and I'm originally from Jamaica. And as Paula said, I arrived in Florida. I'm still here. I arrived in Florida when I was 20 years old. Won't tell you how old I am right now. It's been a while. My reason for coming here, I was married at the time, and my husband filed for me, and so we arrived. I arrived in October. I remember the year like it was yesterday. Nice weather in October. And by November, I was in tears because it was so cold. And now, years later, I live for that time of the year because the summers are so hot. In Jamaica, I worked as a secretary. Now they call it administrative assistant. But my dream had always been to become a registered nurse like my aunt, Irma. She was a nurse for many, many years and rose to the ranks in Jamaica. I spent many hours with her in the hospitals where I'd see how she diligently cared for her patients. So my dream was just to follow her footsteps in every way possible. But my dream didn't materialize until I arrived here. Initially, I worked in the clerical field because that was, easy to get a job. And years later, I entered the healthcare field. I took a scenic route to become a registered nurse. I was a home health aide, then I became a certified nursing assistant, then a licensed practical nurse, and then a registered nurse. And then later on, I attained other degrees and certifications. All through that, I worked while attending school. Unfortunately, along the way, that marriage broke down and ended in divorce.
Oh, no.
Some of yes, you face obstacles in life, but it wasn't easy. But you pick up yourself, dust off, and move on. Use those stumbling blocks as propellers to move higher.
Yep.
One of the amazing things that happened during my work as a nurse, my background is in emergency nursing, and one of the tasks was to care for sexual assault victims. Back then, you assist the physician. The physician is the one who does the examination, collects the evidence, you package it, and maintain the chain of custody and hand it over to the law enforcement. They take it to the crime lab. So, in that, I found my passion for caring for sexual assault victims. As a survivor myself, that was very special to me. And years later, when I got the opportunity to train as a sexual assault nurse examiner, I jumped in it. That means that instead of assisting the physician, I was now the one collecting the forensic evidence and doing all that stuff. This gives me a sense of purpose because when I say to that victim, I know how you feel, that's an authentic statement because I've been there. We all experience these traumas in different ways, but I can personally empathize and say, I know how you feel. A lot of what I've heard from multiple victims, they've had similar experiences in the past and nobody believed them, not even their mothers, especially. It always breaks my heart when a victim said I disclosed to my mother. Sometimes it's the mother's spouse or boyfriend,
Oh
and they're not
gosh.
believed.
Yeah.
That breaks my heart. I know for a long time I didn't disclose when I was a child. Not because I didn't think I would be believed, but I didn't want to bring the shame on the family. I don't know why, as a child, I cared about that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not my shame. I shouldn't have cared, but I, for some reason, I did. So believing the victim and giving them the opportunity to speak and to listen to them and show them compassion. A lot of times I see them relax, glad that somebody believed them for a change. Along the way, in 2021, I entered a writing challenge that just flashed across my screen on Facebook. Nalena Kai, international bestselling author, was doing a 30-day writing challenge. Well, I never thought of writing a book. I mean, what would I write? So I met with her by Zoom, and that night they were talking about writing a memoir or self help. I'm like, I don't know any self help. What do I know? Although I'm a nurse, I should know something, but I didn't think I did, did at the time. So I said, okay, I'll write a memoir. I didn't know what I would write. Then I just agreed and got the details. And that same night, I wrote the first chapter of my book, and that was based on my first incident being sexually assaulted. And that book became a number one Amazon bestseller. It has opened the door for a lot of women to share their stories, and that makes me feel so proud in a sense that I was able to offer that to someone. I've heard from women, young and older, of having similar experiences. I've helped to counsel some to sharing their stories. Some just want to tell me. Some have gone on to share with others that they didn't think they would have in the past. So I've found my purpose through my work, and I'm happy with that. I've since written all the books, and I'm still writing. Have been bitten by that bug, and I'm enjoying it.
Wow. But what stands out at me is you said you found your purpose. But before we talk about that, what's the name of the first book that you wrote? The book that made you the number one bestseller?
Things
I,
that keep me up at night.
Things That Keep Me Up at Night. I like that title. It's very,
Yeah,
very
because there was
pertinent.
a lot of things that happened, and it just kept playing over in my head. It doesn't matter at what age some things happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's yesterday. As I said to my editor when I was writing, whatever the things I'm writing about, I can still see them, hear them, smell them, taste them. It was just like it was happening all over again. You
Wow.
don't forget.
Wow. And has writing that, was that therapeutic for you?
Absolutely therapeutic. You get it out because there were things that I never mentioned that, I disclosed in the book. And just getting it out was so rewarding.
I can only imagine that. Yeah.
And the fact that it's helping. I mean, I've heard from healthcare professionals where it's being used in therapy sessions for other survivors. It's amazing.
Marie, that's a big deal. That's really a big deal. Number one being that it was therapeutic for you, and now to find out that it's being used by, I mean, in medical circles to help other women who have been victims of sexual abuse. That's really, really
Yes, Paula. Yes. Thank God for leading me on this journey. I will continue to help others through this.
absolutely. So now you said, before I asked you the name of your book, that you found your purpose. Let's talk about that purpose.
Helping survivors like me regain their passion for living, introduce them to the resources that have helped me live again. You know, it's not easy when you're violated in that way. It's almost like an attack on your soul. Everything else is like outside the body. This one, it's like within. So it's like some people are destroyed. You know, some never recover, their
Yeah.
coping skills totally derailed, drugs,
Mm-hmm.
alcohol, suicide. It's traumatic. And if I can in some way help someone going through that, like I was helped, because along the way, I've worked with individuals and organizations who worked to help survivors thrive. And this has helped me. So I want to give back. And I feel like I've been called to serve in this capacity.
Understandably so. And so, a question that's going through my mind is, as you worked during your career, you said you became a sexual assault nurse, correct?
Yes.
Was that before you actually wrote the book, or what, did you write the book
That
and
was
then?
before I wrote the book.
Okay. So I guess that your career has influenced the way you've written the book, and that's why I don't want to say that's why it's so helpful to many victims, but I'm going to say it just has enhanced
Yes.
your,
The
everything.
career plus the experiences.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Wow. So you mentioned that you have written some more books after that first one.
Yes, my second book was co-authored with international bestselling author Nalena Kai. It's called 90 Days of Pleasure, and it's based on a couple who the woman was older than the young NBA star, and she was concerned about the age difference. So he strives to, soothe her fears. So they traveled to Arabia, the trip he planned to like seal the deal. But then, of course, in all romance novels, there are conflicts. So they encountered some conflicts engineered to keep them apart. So you got to read it to see how they survived.
Yes, you've got to read it to find out the end. The end of the story
Yes.
comes from
And
reading it. Okay. But what inspired you to write that novel, that book?
in meeting Nelena, I was introduced to a tribe called NK Tribe called Success, a group of authors, international bestselling authors, and new authors. And we help in supporting others in writing. So, in deciding to continue my writing journey, I am branching out into different genres. So, that was my first romantic suspense. I'm
Wow.
currently working on an inspirational novel, which is going to be part of my story also. So, that's coming out soon.
So you're a woman of many talents and many skills.
Yes.
So you've become an author, but at the same time you're still working as a sexual assault nurse.
Yes. Plus, a nurse educator. I teach new nurses now. I'm no longer at the bedside. So I travel across the country and I teach new nurses before they get to the bedside. So they're more fully prepared. And it's not like a deer in the headlights when they get in and there's a code or, something they can say, oh, I've seen it before because we saw that.
Oh, wonderful. So you travel across the country to teach nurses on how to become better bedside nurses, or you
Yes, to
teach
prepare them.
to prepare them? Got you.
Yes. We have didactic and simulations and skills teaching. So they go through codes, real life situations. You also teach them how to start an IV, draw blood, administer medications, the crash cart, the paddles and everything. Hands on.
These are some terms I'm hearing. My nieces who live with me, they've done 1 year of nursing. These are some
Mhm.
terms I hear from them. So this is interesting.
Yes. And I enjoy it. You see them from day one and they're scared because they're fresh out of nursing school and they do nothing. And then by the end of the training, they're like, oh my gosh, you should see them. It's amazing. The
Yes.
transformation.
Yes, I've seen the transformation here with my nieces, the
Yes.
confidence with which they talk about things, the way they look at, many things like what to eat. Just a general conversation has changed
Yes.
since day one and now.
Yes. And it also reminds me of when I started, because I left nursing school straight to the emergency room. That's like a baptism by fire. I remember being, yes, I remember being the first code or the ambulance driving in and you're like, wide eyed. I remember learning to start an IV and my mentor holding my hand, showing me how to palpate the veins. I wish the program and teaching, I wish that was around when I was a new nurse. It's really phenomenal.
But you said something like even when you're talking about being a sexual assault nurse and how because you had lived through that experience, you were able to become, I think, even a better nurse because you could empathize and you could understand where these women, how they felt. And you said many a victim's face was like one of relief, having heard you say, well, I understand because I've lived
Yeah,
through this. So, in the same way, I guess now as you're teaching these new students, having been
exactly.
through that, you're like, I understand. I understand the
Yes.
fear, the anxiety, that.
Yes. And you can tell them this is a learning environment. Don't be scared. Nobody's here. You can't fail. Because some of them think, oh my gosh, if I do something wrong, they're going to yell at me. Or it's like, no, this is a safe space to learn.
I love that. I love
Safe
that.
space to learn.
So how did the pandemic affect your job? Because you go all over the country now training. What happened during that pandemic?
Yeah. When the pandemic started, I actually was an emergency room nurse at the time.
Ah,
Yes. Experiencing the overcrowding, just like the N95 mask and the shield and the gowns and oh you're so hot because you have to wear all night changing between patients and just keep going. So I transitioned into this field during the pandemic, but you just put your mask on as required and just keep going. And the good thing was most of our teaching sessions are outside the hospitals, so we didn't have to go through the hospitals, mostly in hotels and conference rooms.
awesome, awesome. So the last 2 years have been a completely not change in career, but just doing it from a different angle. And it'd be interesting to hear how to see the transition from when you first started and the pandemic had started then and people really didn't know what to do to where we are now where we're not out of the woods but definitely we have a different outlook on COVID-19 and
Completely different, and how to behave during a pandemic and treat each other. Yeah.
yes, with respect and with understanding and to be respectful of others, because especially now where the mask is in mandatory everywhere, you still have to be
Mhm.
respectful that some people still feel more comfortable with their mask on. So don't look at them like, what's
Yes,
wrong with
and
you?
respect them enough to leave them alone and let them wear their mask. If you don't want to wear yours, you don't wear
Yes, and vice
yours.
versa. Those who are wearing masks should not look, look down on those
Exactly.
who have decided
Yes.
to, go without their masks. Yeah.
Yes, we're all different people and we have the freedom to make our choices.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as we talk about, the Marie that came to the United States in 1989 and the Marie now of 2022, would you say that you've realized your dreams and your ambitions that, when you were coming brand new that you planned on achieving?
Absolutely. Life for me now is like a complete 180.
Mm,
I'm a registered nurse, which I wanted to accomplish. I'm an author, which I didn't even think of. I'm a sexual assault nurse examiner. I didn't think of that. I have remarried to the most amazing man, George. I call him my hallelujah
mm,
because he's just it's
mm.
just like so. We live in Orlando. I mean, I'm enjoying my career, enjoying advocating and helping others. I've found happiness and success in what I do because it impacts the life of others. And both of us have a passion for people. We help individual and causes that we hold dear. So it's couldn't ask for anything better than impacting the life of other people.
Wow, love that. And how would you say that your journey, if you were looking at, I was going to say, what would you tell 21 year old or 25-year-old Marie coming from, let's say in your case, Jamaica now coming to America? What advice would you give to someone like that?
I would tell the grass is not always greener on the other side. Maybe that person is watering his grass, that's why it's greener.
Hmm.
Coming to United States and Jamaica here, go to the US, everything is rosy. You think everybody who travels to the US has a lot of money,
Hmm.
like they have a money tree on the back. I remember I used to have family members and friends travel back to Jamaica and they have all these things they were giving. And I didn't know they were using credit cards to fund that until I arrived here and I had people telling me, oh, I can't pay for this, I can't do that. So be careful when you arrive here. Don't like jump and grab credit cards or offer things you can't afford just because you want to please people or give them the impression that you have a great life. Be authentic, be yourself. Doesn't matter if people are not going to like you. And that's one of the traps I never fell into. I don't believe in giving what I don't have. I don't believe in using my credit cards to and have a large bill just so I could send things back home. I know they're in need, but I shouldn't have to put myself down just so they can have things to flash around.
Hey, 100%. I think that's excellent, excellent advice because a guest of mine said this to me. She said, the United States has done a fantastic job advertising themselves, marketing themselves abroad, which we outside of the United States, better still, have not, And so when you see movies and, you watch the news, you see wealth and you think, oh my gosh, the
Yes,
road is paved in gold there. And you come here and you realize $1 means somebody has worked for it.
exactly.
And so
You're not getting it from anyone, you
you're
working for it.
working for it. And that is
Yes,
something that most people, before they come to the United States, as you said, do not realize. So that credit card bill needs to be paid
exactly. And on
and
time.
on time.
The penalties that come with the late payments or no payments.
Very high. Very, very high.
And it stays on your credit because here everything you want to buy is, oh, what's your credit rating?
Yes,
Your interest on a car loan or a home loan, what's your credit rating?
absolutely.
How do you manage the finances that God has blessed you with?
Exactly.
How do you care for the family that God has
Blessed you.
blessed you
Yep.
with?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. That's a big part of it. And our generation was not, we weren't, and still so. I mean, the financial people don't really talk much about, they don't educate people, young people. And we weren't
Yes.
educated on how money works. And a lot of young people still don't understand how money works. And that's another topic for another episode.
Yes. Financial literacy should be a requirement in high school.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. Because you get out and the real world is waiting for you, and you haven't been taught that, on how to
Right.
survive. But anyway, let's go on to lighter things because all good things have to come to an end. I wanted to ask you to give us a fun fact about your country, or a fact that most people don't know about. When I say your country, your country of birth, Jamaica.
Yes. I recently discovered that Jamaicans originally spoke Spanish.
What?
They were ruled by the Spaniards. I don't remember from which period to which, but yes, Spanish.
Wow. Most people will not know that. I didn't.
I didn't know that until recently, so that's a real fun fact.
Wow. And so are there some tongues with Spanish names? Is there any lingering of that?
But we have Spanish Town,
Okay.
and so on.
Okay. All right.
That's in St. Catherine.
And do you have a favorite quote that you like to share with my audience?
Yes, without commitment, you'll never begin. Without consistency, you'll never succeed.
Without commitment, you would never begin. Without consistency, you will never succeed.
Never succeed.
I love that.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Marie. And where can people find you online? I've learned so much about you and about what you're doing and how you're impacting not just your local community, but because you travel, you're impacting communities within the United States. And how can people get in touch with you?
I'm on all social media platforms, Marie McKenzie. My website is marielmckenzie.com.
Oh, okay. So you're on all social media platforms, and you can find you on your website as well.
Yeah, TikTok, IG, Facebook.
TikTok.
Yes, correct.
You
TikTok. Oh my gosh, I learned to use TikTok. It
know-
is so amazing.
Oh
Yes,
my word, that's something that I'm still getting used to. IG, yeah,
yes.
LinkedIn, I love, but TikTok,
And I'm also on LinkedIn.
wow.
Yes. Initially, I didn't like TikTok because the videos just start playing as soon as you open the app, and I need to select what I want to
Right.
hear. But now it's fun.
Oh boy, I need to go check you out there. I don't think I've looked at that.
Yeah, you need to get on.
I'm still a bit apprehensive. All right. And so, for my listeners, if you have enjoyed what you just heard from my fabulous guest, Marie McKenzie, please head over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and follow us. And better still, click subscribe. And if you are an immigrant woman from the Caribbean or Africa and you'd like to be a guest on Chatting with the Experts, why not head over to my website, which is www.chattingwiththeexperts.com/contact us and apply. I'd love to chat with you. Thank you again, Marie, for being such a phenomenal guest on Chatting with the Experts.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you, listeners. I appreciate being here.
Thank you.